In this series of video, we are still comparing the King James Version and the modern translation of the New Testament, such as the NIV, the ESV, New American Standard Bible, and the New Revised Standard Version in particular. Today, we're going to investigate two verses from the Gospel. Here today, the Gospel of Luke, chapter 23, and you will notice that it's missing in the modern version, but it is included in the King James Version. And we're also going to look at the Gospel of John. Now let's read first a little bit of the background of Luke chapter 23, verse 17. Verse 15 says, "And Pilate, when he had called together the chief priests and the rulers and the people, said unto them, Ye have brought this man unto me," speaking of Jesus Christ, "one that perverted the people, and behold, I, having examined him before you, have found no fault in this man touching those things whereof ye accuse him of him." Verse 15, "No, nor yet Herod, for I sent you to him, and lo, nothing worthy of death is done unto him. I will therefore chastise him and release him." Verse 17 is what is missing in many modern versions of the Bible. "For of necessity he must release one unto them at the feast." Okay, that's what is missing. And let's see what modern version are including as a footnote. You will see here when you compare the two, it's included in the King James, but it's missing in the NIV because it's excluded with a footnote. And let's read what the footnote say in the NIV. It says, "Some manuscripts include here words similar to Matthew 27 verse 15 and Mark 15 verse 6. Okay, and you will notice that the New Revised Standard Version does not include verse 17, and this is a footnote they add also. Here, or after verse 19, all the ancient authority add verse 17. So they're mentioning that now he was obliged to release someone for them at the festival. So this is the verse that is missing. If you take the NASB, same thing, they put in bracket after verse 17 with the footnote saying most early manuscripts do not contain this verse. Now look at this statement. Remember, we talked about some early manuscript around the time of the text, Codex Vaticanus and Codex Sinaiticus, which are the earliest Greek manuscript we have in possession today, but they are overlooking the fact that some early manuscripts do contain verse 17, and we'll come back to that. And ESV, the same thing, you say here or after verse 19, they're saying the same thing as the New Revised Standard Version. Some manuscripts at verse 17, now he was obliged. So they say about the same thing as the New Revised, so which say that they're using similar sources. So when you can see here, Luke 23:17 is supported by most Greek manuscripts of the Gospel of Luke. Now, these manuscripts may be of later date, but the majority of extant Greek manuscripts are supporting it. So that's the first point. Second, and here including Codex Sinaiticus, based on what some experts are telling us, even the manuscript that they're using has a support of this verse. And Codex W, again dated between 300 and 400 AD, contain this verse. We also have the evidence that it is supported by the Old Latin manuscript, which are dated around 400 AD. And remember, the Old Latin was written around 100 copy, around 150, but the earliest manuscript we have today are around 400 AD. The Vulgate, Latin Vulgate, translated by Jerome, around 380, has this verse included. The Peshitta, again, so we have a number of manuscripts from the time of the oldest Greek manuscript that we have in possession, which include this passage. So when these translators are telling us some manuscript, the earliest manuscript do not include it, that's not totally correct as a statement. And again, we have proven in our previous video that just the age of a manuscript doesn't guarantee its reliability, its accuracy, and its closeness to the original writing of the apostles. We need other argument to prove that. Now let's look at now the second verse, which is the Gospel of John, chapter 5, and you will notice here the Gospel of John, chapter 5, verse 3 and 4. Verse 4 are missing. The last part of verse 3 is also missing. Okay, so we'll take a close look at it and see what these verses are saying. And we're going to go to the stepbible.org, which has multiple translations that we can put together. So let's read what it say here. Gospel of John, you can see verse 3. The ESV has verse 3. It say, in these lay a multitude of invalid, blind, lame, and paralyzed. They stop there. And ASV also stop there. New International Version, NIV, also stop at paralyzed. But let's read the King James. You can see here. It say, in those lay a great multitude of folk, and blind, halt, wither, waiting for the moving of the water. So that's the part that is missing in the modern version. Okay? And you can see also when you look at verse 5 here, it doesn't have verse 4. So it's missing verse 4 and part of verse 3, the second part of verse 3. Now when we take a look at the King James Version about verse 4, this is what we find. Let's look at it. We read it here. It say, verse 4, this is the missing verse, and for an angel went down at a certain season into the pool and troubled the water. Whosoever then first after troubling of the water stepped in was made whole of whatsoever disease he had. Okay, before you say, and a certain man was there which had an infirmity 38 years. So this is the pool of Bethsaida, and that layman and blind was there and waiting to be healed. Okay, let's look at the evidence now. In most extant Greek manuscript of the Gospel of John, again the majority texts which are of the Byzantine type, they all agree that the second part of verse 3 and verse 4 should be included in those in the text. Okay, in the translation of the Gospel of John chapter 5. Again, it is supported by Codex Alexandrinus. Okay, Codex Alexandrinus, which is dated around 400 AD. Again, it's a manuscript that contains most of the New Testament, in particular Matthew, John, and then the Second Corinthians, plus some extra canonical writings such as Clement, etc., etc. And they're of Byzantine type. And these verses are also supported by the Peshitta, 400 AD, and they are cited by Saint Chrysostom in his homily 36 on the Gospel of John. Okay, so we have reference to this, and this is a church father. If he has cited this verse, most likely he was using some Greek manuscript, right, that are reliable, that are closer to the original writing of the apostles. Okay, so we cannot dismiss them simply because it has been excluded by translator of modern version of the Bible. Okay, who are citing the fact that they are later Greek manuscript, therefore less reliable. But we have church fathers citing it. So a reason to support them. Okay, so, and when we look at the next slide here, so this is what some of these modern versions are saying. Some manuscripts include here wholly or in part paralyzed, and they waited for from the time to the angel, and they're mentioning all the references. You take the New Revised Standard Version, they did the same thing. NISV has verse 17 in bracket with the footnote saying that some manuscripts include this, mentioning it again. ESV also the same thing as the others. Okay, so we are going to stop here, and we will come back to more passages of the Bible, of the New Testament, comparing the King James Version, which is a literal translation based on the Byzantine text, and the NIV, ESV, New American Standard Bible, all based on the Alexandrian minority text, which are excluding some of these verses. Thank you for your attention. May God bless you, and we will be in touch for the next series of videos.